answering the question, what not to say in a job interview. So if you are about to do job interviews, or you're doing job interviews, and you're wondering what are sort of instant kiss of death things that you can say that, you want to avoid these, right? Let's get into what those might be. Okay. I've done some videos on this. I did a video a couple of years ago. I can't remember what it's called, like, never say this or something, where it's just like a quick fire set of clips of like, me saying all the things that you shouldn't say, or all the things that have major red flags associated with them or could be associated with them. So if you ever get a chance to see that video, maybe look it up if you're interested. But let's go through some of these. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a couple of things that, are obvious red flags that you shouldn't say. And then I'm going to try something a little bit different. We're going to get ChatGPT involved, and I'm going to sort of critique ChatGPT's answers because it's not perfect. It does make some mistakes. So these are a couple of things I would say off the bat. Don't disclose that you have another job offer. That's what I would say. Okay. Because you see, it's a double-edged sword. Some people say that you should, some people say that you shouldn't. I think the reasoning of why you should say it, some people argue you should say it, is because it gives them it gives these recruiters a sense of urgency that they should act quickly to get you before you're snapped up by somebody else. That's a very risky strategy. Okay. If they're interviewing 6 people and all of the 6 could do the job, and there's no obvious red flags with any of the 6, which one would you extend the offer to? The one that's already in negotiations with 2 other employers about, because they've received 2 other job offers? Is that the one you would try and get? Probably not, right? You'd probably approach the candidate that doesn't already have an existing job offer from somewhere else. Okay. There's less urgency. There's less competition. They're more likely to accept your offer, and you avoid the situation of, we offered this person the job, but then they took a different job, and that's embarrassing for the recruiter that set that up. Right? They have to go back to their boss and say, well, we did make the offer like you agreed, but I'm sorry, it seems like they've already been snapped up by somebody else, so we missed the bus on that one. It's embarrassing. And then you got to redo all that work with somebody else. Okay, so don't disclose you've got another job. It's great that you do. That's wonderful. Keep it to yourself. Okay? Obviously, never say negative things in a job interview. Don't say negative things about previous bosses, previous coworkers, previous employers, just people in general. Like, you talk about a different company in the news or something, and you say, they're a bunch of idiots. Like, don't say negative things. Don't say negative things about yourself. They say, tell me about a time you did this, and you tell a story where you messed up and you did a bad job and you admitted defeat, and don't say anything negative about yourself or anyone else in a job interview. It is the kiss of death. It will count against you. Okay? If they ask you, a certain question or, anything, don't go to the job interview and say, I don't know what you guys do. Do 2 minutes of research, find out what the company does. Okay. Equally, don't go down to a job interview not knowing what the role is. They're looking for someone who's got all your qualifications. Great. But it's for a role. You don't understand what that role is or what someone does in that role. Do some research for like 2 minutes to find out what it is. Don't go down to a job interview and say, I don't have any questions for you. They say, do you have any questions? And you say, nope. Don't do that. That signals that you either don't care about this job. It's just, or, you just don't know enough to ask anything intelligent, right? You haven't done any preparation. So whichever way you slice it, don't answer no to do you have any questions for us? Okay. Disclosing a side hustle. Let's say you've got your own thing going on the side. Okay. You have a little, home business or something you do casually, right? Don't disclose that in a job interview. I think it's fantastic that you have this, and it is fantastic. And you are obviously a highly capable, diligent person with a head for business. That's awesome. Those are some great traits. They make you very valuable. But don't disclose that in a job interview, because even though you might be proud of this accomplishment, and you should be, even though you want to show off your abilities, which is understandable, the problem is that when you disclose this, what employers hear, whether it's a recruiter or a hiring manager or anyone else, what they hear is that your loyalties are conflicted. Okay? You either go, if they offer you the job and you end up working for these people, now you're serving two masters. Okay? They want you to work overtime, and you're thinking, should I work overtime? I don't know. If I work overtime, I won't be able to do my home business, right? So you go, no, I'm sorry, because you want to do your home business like you normally do, right? So you're serving two masters. They don't like that. It also means that they have less power over you, because if they were your sole source of income, and all your energy outside of R&R goes to them, they have more control. They can threaten you with firing or layoff or whatever, and it carries more weight. If you've got your own thing going on the side and you're financially secure, they don't have as much power over you. So, okay, so you might not try as hard at work. You might not care as much if they don't really think you're that great of an employee. So for a variety of reasons, don't disclose you've got another thing going on the side. Okay. That's what I'd say to that. Now, I am going to do something that I've never done, because I think it's a bit of a lark here, if I can do this, and that is a scientific term. I am going to pull up ChatGPT, and I'm going to do this in another weird browser that I never use called Edge. Here we go. And I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to do this together. Let's see here. And then after this, we will get to questions. Okay, so let's see here. So what are we talking about? What not to say in a job interview, right? Let's see what ChatGPT says about this. For those of you who are not familiar with ChatGPT or not using it on a regular basis, start using it, okay? Because this thing is the sort of hidden magic weapon that will help you in your job search, okay? It'll make you work so much faster, but also it will actually allow you to write better resumes and cover letters and prepare for interviews and all this. It'll allow you to be more effective than you could have been if you weren't using tools like ChatGPT. Okay, let's see what ChatGPT says about this. So it's listing things that you don't want to say. Let's take a look at this. Negative comments about previous employers. Absolutely. Okay, so don't say my last boss was awful or anything like that. Yes, for that reason. It says something very bad about your character. It's almost the instant kiss of death if you do this in a job interview. So absolutely. Number 2, overly personal information. I'm dealing with a lot of drama at home. Well, once again, that's kind of a negative thing. So saying that would be negative, but not for the reason that they're talking about. It would be a problem because of this, right? But the thing is, it's just not a good idea. This wouldn't be an instant kiss of death, but it's just not a good idea. Don't give them all the details of your home life and your family and your food dislikes and your extended family and your hobbies, especially if you got some weird hobbies. It's cool to have some weird hobbies, I think. I think some of the most interesting people I know have really effing weird hobbies, but that's great. But the problem is, if you tell that to strangers who don't know you, they just think you're a weirdo, and there's some negative stuff going on there. So, okay, so, and obviously some stuff is confidential. Like, they want to know your bank account number. Obviously that's confidential. Don't say, I don't know. Yeah, I would agree. That just signals poor preparation. Okay. I don't know the answer to that. You should always have an answer. Okay. And if you're wondering, a good default answer to any question they ask you that stumps you is to go back to the requirements that they listed in the job posting. Okay? So go back to the original job posting where they said, we're looking for someone who's got this, and this. Okay? This education, this experience, these skills. Go back to that and start talking about how you have those, or one of those at least. Okay? They ask you some weird question. You don't know how to answer it. You say, but you would say something like, well, the fact that I have this would probably guide me through that or something, right? So that's always your default sort of answer. Okay. I don't like this. I know several people recommend this, where you say, I don't know, but I can find out and get back to you. No. You want to be better prepared for that. You want to give them an answer. Okay? So you do this by preparing and having sort of contingency answers waiting. So anything they ask you, you don't know, you state a couple of things that you can always fall back on, like your main things that you have that add value, like your experience or your education. Okay, asking about salary or benefits too early. Yes, I would agree with that. Like the first thing you say is like, so how much does this pay? What does that signal? It signals that you're only in it for the money. You don't care about the actual job. And that also is the kiss of death. Recruiters are trained to look for someone who is a fit for a job, meaning that they are passionate about it. They are talented in it, in that job specifically. Okay. And that's who they want to hire, ideally. So if you say something like this, right, that signals that you're not a fit and that you're only here because you care about the money. You don't care about the actual job. That's what's important to you. That's what you're signaling. Okay. While these topics are important, they should be addressed later. Yes, absolutely. I agree with that one. Okay. Lying or exaggerating. Well, listen, exaggerating is a very charged word here. Now look at advertising, look at promotion. Has anyone ever exaggerated anything in an ad you've seen? Of course they have. That's what salespeople do. They focus on the benefits and the good aspects, and they downplay the negative aspects or the disadvantages, right? Everyone has got strengths and weaknesses. You have strengths and weaknesses. I have strengths and weaknesses. We all do. What you're going to do in a job interview is you're going to try and downplay your weaknesses, and you're going to make sure that they understand your strengths. Okay? So exaggerating is kind of a charged word. I think that a lot of people will exaggerate, and you can expect people to exaggerate. Everyone's going to be exaggerating. Okay? So I don't know about this, okay, this word here, but this for sure, like saying, if the answer is an outright yes, if you were asked that directly and you say no, yeah, that's going to be a problem. And why is this a problem? It's not just a problem because like, oh, I have a hang up about it. It's a problem because if they ever found out that that's what you're doing, it's certainly a sudden death elimination. Also, you could be blacklisted from that company, and sometimes companies share that with other companies or other organizations. You never know what they got going on, so it's a bad idea. Okay. Lies are often uncovered. No, they're not. Sometimes they're uncovered. But do you want to take the risk? It's just a bad idea. So don't lie. Don't lie outright. It's on my resume. When asked about your experience, excuse me, When asked about your experience responding with, it's all on my resume. Yeah, that's okay. That's kind of arrogant. Okay. It comes across as dismissive or lazy. Yeah, listen. Okay, here is a reality for everyone who doesn't already know this. A lot of recruiters are incompetent. And their method of assessing someone's suitability for a role is deeply flawed. It's not necessarily because the recruiters are bad people. It's just that this method of my brain is letting me down. This method of assessing a candidate's suitability for a job has been shown, not by me, but by experts, people who study this stuff, do research on it with data. They've known for a long time. This is not a very accurate or effective method for finding the best candidate or the least risky candidate. We can see this every day by the fact that, a lot of recruiters and a lot of hiring managers hire people that then turn out to be complete duds. It doesn't work out, right? The turnover rate for employees is higher than it's ever been in the past. It's highest right now. People are staying for shorter and shorter amounts of time, right? This is well known. Okay. So it's just a bad idea. Okay. Now, if you go to a job interview and they don't know the first thing about you, you sent in your resume, you sent in a cover letter, and the first thing on your resume and the first thing on your cover letter was that you have this. And you go down to an interview and they don't know the first thing about you. They don't even know that you have that. Right? What's your reaction going to be? It's going to be anger, probably, frustration. It's like, what? Well, why did you invite? I mean, if you don't even know that about me, why did you invite me for the interview? Is the obvious question, right? You've got to resist the temptation to express that, unfortunately, okay? Because even though you're right, you're going to come across as a jackass. You're going to come across as an angry type person who's got a problem with them. And if you think that's the type of person they're going to pick, you're in for a surprise. So yeah, even though this might be justified, don't say it. Don't indicate it with body language either. You just kind of come across as annoyed by that, right? That's the kiss of death. Okay. Lack of enthusiasm. Okay. I'm just looking for any job right now. Yeah. Don't say that for reasons I covered earlier. Criticizing the job or company. I've heard the work environment here isn't great. Yeah. Some people have brought this up in the context of when they ask you, what questions do you have for them? Right? They'll say like, do you have any questions for us? And then you have to ask the recruiter a question. Some people, and even in these live streams that I do, people in the comments have suggested like, to ask them a question that kind of grills them a bit, It's like, what's the worst aspect for you of working here, or something like that. Don't do that. That creates awkwardness. They're not going to say, oh yeah, this place is really not all it's cracked up to be. If I could be perfectly honest with you, run, don't take this job. They're not going to say that stuff. So they'll have to put on some kind of weird game face and say the party line, right? But they're not going to enjoy it. And they're going to remember you as the person that, sort of put the screws to them in the interview and made them feel awkward. So don't say stuff like this, okay? Even if it's true, even if the company has got some really well-known bad points to it, okay? Overemphasizing weakness. I would say mentioning weakness, okay? I know that a lot of recruiters like to believe that, the candidate should be honest and you should get a nice overview of their weaknesses. It's like, no, your job is to not say any weaknesses of you. It's not to disclose anything negative about you in a job interview. I'll just say that, like, what a lot of people don't realize is that your relationship to the recruiter or to the hiring manager is very complex. In some senses, you are partners. You are on the same side, right? If you are a suitable candidate, then you would want to work with them to get you hired, right? And then both parties benefit from that. You're the best employee, you take the job, you end up working out great. The company benefits, you benefit. So they're your partner, okay? You also want to give them what they need and what they're looking for to say yes to you, okay? You're on the same side. However, in another sense, they are your adversary, okay? For example, like we talked about today, they're trying to get the dirt on you. That's what a lot of job interview questions are tailored to, especially things like the salary question, right? Or why did you leave your last job? They're trying to see if there's any, shady thing in your past that would suggest that you're a high-risk employee, high-risk candidate. Okay? So your job is you have a very adversarial relationship. Okay? They want you to give the dirt on yourself. You want to hide the dirt on yourself. You have opposite incentives. Same with the salary question. You want them to pay as much as they can possibly pay for you. Okay, that's your incentive, to get as much as you can. And they have the opposite incentive. They're trying to get you for as cheap as they could possibly get you, right? So you have opposite incentives. So they're your opponent. So it's not the time to work with them, it's the time to work against them, right? So this is the reality of your relationship to the interviewer, whether they're a recruiter or a hiring manager. In a lot of ways, you guys are partners, and you're on the same side, and you both want to succeed together. In some other senses, you're opponents. Like when you're negotiating salary, you're not on the same side. You both want opposite things. Okay, so returning to this, okay, you don't want to disclose any kind of weakness in a job interview. It's not to your benefit. The more honest you are about like your weaknesses, the more likely they're going to eliminate you, right? So this is not something, and a lot of recruiters, look, obviously, I've got some skin in the game here, but a lot of recruiters, they like to advise you just to like work with them on everything. So when they're trying to eliminate you and get your weaknesses, they say, oh, just be honest. Just tell us everything. Everything that we ask you, just give a full and complete answer and it will all go well. Wrong. They'll use it against you. Okay? So don't disclose any weaknesses whatsoever. Even when they ask you, what are your weaknesses? You don't disclose anything that's damaging. Overconfidence or arrogance. I agree. It's such a fine line between feeling confident and feeling like, yeah, I am absolutely comfortable in this role and I know I can do a great job. And I honestly feel that, I'm really a really, really good candidate here and that you should select me. It's such a fine line between showing confidence and flipping over into showing arrogance, right? It's something that, once again, younger people, less experienced people, you may make mistakes feeling where that line is, or that border. It's like kind of a fuzzy kind of border where, confidence flips over into arrogance. Older, more experienced people, you may have an advantage. You may have gotten it wrong several times and you've learned from those experiences. Okay, I can say this, but don't say that, right? That's going too far, right? So just be aware of that. Confidence is good. Make sure it can't be construed as arrogance. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. I think that's a good coverage of, what not to say in a job interview. Let me know what your thoughts are on this.